DB11 succeeds the DB9 as Aston Martin's flagship V12 GT, taking on cars like the Mercedes-AMG S65 Coupe, Bentley Continental GT and Ferrari F12. Aston's DB lineage, named after one-time owner David Brown, stretches right back to 1950 and includes the iconic DB5 of Goldfinger fame. But the DB11 is the first all-new one since 2003. And if you're wondering what happened to DB10, that was reserved for a special rebodied V8 Vantage used in 2015's Bond film, Spectre. By the company's own admission, its previous offerings were too closely aligned, each car trying to straddle the line between luxury GT and sports car. Aston's new strategy is to provide greater differentiation, which means the DB11 can concentrate on being a truly great long-distance GT, leaving the job of supercar to more extreme performance versions that will come later. There's a familiarity about the front-end styling, which still features the classic Aston Martin face, albeit subtly recontoured. But move to the rear and the design becomes more radical, exhibiting no sign of previous DB's trademark kicked-up tail. Its job of providing downforce now passed to a jet of air taken in at the split pillar and fired upwards from the boot lid to create a virtual spoiler. The DB11 is technically clever, but the styling changes might not suit traditionalists. Although built on a new platform that will be resized to produce 2017's Vantage replacement, the DB11 follows its predecessor's template of aluminium construction and mighty V12 engine. But this new V12 is downsized from 5.9 liters to 5.2. Yes, we know, these things are relative, but more than makes up for that loss of capacity with the addition of 2 turbochargers. So equipped, the DB11 has 600 bhp, 32 bhp more than even the old Vanquish, and enough to take it to 60 miles per hour in 3.9 seconds and to a genuine 200 miles per hour. The same basic platform and engine will sire a Vanquish replacement later, and at least one other model, plus the inevitable Volante convertible versions. But for now the DB11 stands alone, making the buying decision easy. There are numerous options, and at this level, when it comes to personalization, anything goes. If you've got the money but only one engine and one transmission, the excellent and ubiquitous ZF8 speed automatic driving the rear wheels exclusively. Traditionally, Aston Martin has struggled to keep pace with the tech options offered even in mainstream family cars and expected by luxury car buyers. But Mercedes-Benz now owns a 5% stake in Aston, which has opened up a much-needed technology lifeline. Though the hardware is well disguised in an interior that still retains the beautiful bespoke feel of an Aston, Mercedes owners would recognize the multimedia interface and circular control wheel that operates it. The DB11's interior is significantly roomier than the DB9's, although the back seats are still very much designed for small children, or adults who go potholing on weekends. To find out about the DB11 in more depth, read the full review here. The only engine offered in the DB11 is a twin-turbocharged V12 that produces 600 bhp and 700 Nm of torque, and provides a big step up in performance over the DB9. In fact, the DB11's 3.9 seconds 060 miles per hour time and 200 miles per hour top speed almost match those of the old Vanquish, a supposedly much more extreme machine. Unlike many high-performance cars that have switched to turbocharging, including Ferrari's California and 480 GTB, the DB11's new V12 still retains much of the aero magic that made the old engine so appealing. You still get that wonderful flare of revs when the engine first fires, unless you've given the starter button a long press to activate the new quiet start mode to keep your neighbors happy, and the richly textured tune coming from the exhausts under hard acceleration is a real joy to hear. But the DB11's much more substantial lowdown and mid-range pull makes it feel like a far more effortlessly accelerative machine than the DB9. Turbo lag is well contained, and the excellent 8-speed automatic gearbox is only occasionally wrong-footed. A switch above the steering wheel spoke lets you flick between 3 driving modes: GT, Sport and Sport Plus. In GT mode, the gearbox assumes a relaxed demeanor, gearshift strategy, throttle response and exhaust sound, each becoming more aggressive as you progress through the modes. Although Aston has tried to create a Morgue-like car with the DB11, there's still an expectation of sports car handling with any car wearing the DB badge. And thanks to an even weight distribution that comes from the weight of the front-mounted V12 being countered by the mass of the rear-mounted gearbox, the DB11 handles extremely well. It's a large car, over 4.7 meters long and almost 1,800 kilograms. But there's little evidence of understeer, and the rear tires seem more than man enough to cope with the engine's prodigious torque. The steering ratio is significantly faster than the old DB9's, quick enough to make it feel noticeably more alert when turning, but not so fast that it requires any kind of acclimatizing process, like a Ferrari. The steering is now electrically rather than hydraulically assisted and, while pleasingly accurate, has lost some of the detailed feedback that made older Astons so enjoyable to drive even at low speeds. Aston says that was a deliberate move designed to promote the DB11's role as a relaxing long-distance companion, and to make parking easier for those who plan to use their cars every day. For the same reason, in the adaptive damper's basic GT setting, the body is allowed to move quite freely. Some will prefer the suspension to take a tighter grip even in normal driving, and would be advised to use the steering wheel-mounted switch to select the chassis sport mode. Certainly for any kind of enthusiastic use, Sport is the preferred option. Sport Plus is best reserved for racetracks and ultra-smooth surfaces. Aston interiors have looked largely the same since 2003, excepting some changes to the center console design, following a template laid down by the DB9. But just as the exterior styling makes a radical jump, so does the interior design, retaining only the familiar console-mounted gearbox buttons either side of the starter button to put existing owners at ease. Ahead of the oddly square-shaped but pleasingly chunky steering wheel lies a new TFT digital dash, the centerpiece of which is a giant circular rev counter whose design changes according to which driving mode you have selected. There is some evidence of parts coming from lesser cars, but nothing on the scale of Astons of old. The column stock is clearly Mercedes-derived, as is the multimedia system and its control wheel and touchpad. But the DB11 is no poorer for that because the Mercedes system is well thought out and attractive to use, not something that could be said of Aston's previous efforts. As you'd expect of a car costing more than £150,000, the DB11's interior feels fabulous. Beautifully stitched leather covers almost every surface, though it doesn't feature wood and aluminium work that is every bit as pleasing to both your eye and your touch. And in the unlikely case of your friends not being wowed by all of that, you can show them the electrically retractable armrest cubby. Completely unnecessary, but when it comes to luxury one-upmanship, anything goes. One word of advice though, light-colored gray and tan interiors might make the cabin feel airy, but both cause terrible reflections on both the front and rear windows, causing real visibility problems, so stick to blacks and dark blues instead. Noise levels are pleasingly low except for those coming from the V12, of course thanks to tricks like double-glazed side windows, a feature used on high-end Mercedes for many years. There was some wind rustle from the side windows on the pre-production cars we drove, but Aston claims that was down to badly fitting seals and will be rectified before customers take delivery. Ride comfort is mostly excellent, but the 20-inch tires' low-profile sidewalls can struggle to absorb harsh impacts, for example potholes and transverse ridges in the road. Switching to the suspension's sport mode makes the ride very slightly choppier, but pays you back with vastly tighter handling. Sport Plus mode, meanwhile, is very stiff, making it unsuitable for most British roads, and is best left alone. As you'd hope, Aston Martin has taken care of all of the essentials, resulting in a pretty strong basic kit list. Standard Aston Martin DB11 coupe equipment. No glaring omissions here. Expect sat-nav, DAB radio, leather interior, heated memory seats, front and rear parking sensors with 360-degree view camera, cruise control and speed limiter and dual-zone climate control. Luxuries include an Alcantara headliner, laminated windscreen with noise insulation layer, and a 400-watt Aston Martin audio system. Optional Aston Martin DB11 coupe accessories. The sky's the limit here, with plenty of opportunity to make sure your DB11 looks unique. First off is a two-tone interior trim upgrade with a variety of colors and grades of leather, personalized sill plates and embroidered headrests. Carpets can be upgraded to a heavier pile and ventilation can be added to the seats, plus there is a range of trim options from open pore ash to the very special looking chopped carbon. Gadget-wise, you can have either a 700 or 1000 watt premium stereo, auto park assist, an umbrella and holder, powered seat bolsters and, get this, a powered armrest. For the exterior there is a gloss black treatment for the splitter, diffuser and sills, plus roof panel, an underbonnet jewelry pack, different 20-inch alloys and custom brake calipers painted in black, red, yellow and gray. It's unlikely Euro NCAP will get hold of an Aston Martin DB11 to test. The manufacturer doesn't even feature on the crash tester's website. That said, you get plenty of airbags, dual stage driver and passenger, curtain, side, head, plus pelvis and thorax C8 mounted airbags, and a long list of safety kit acronyms like Dynamic Stability Control DSC, Emergency Brake Assist DEBA, Traction Control TC, Positive Torque Control PTC and Active Torque Vectoring ATV. So we'd expect the DB11 to perform fairly well in this respect. When it comes to comfort, the DB11 takes a big step on from the DB9. Its cabin is usefully roomier for a start, both in the front, and also in the rear seats, although they're still best reserved for children. The seats provide a great balance between comfort and support, holding you upright through corners, but not being so bulky that they're difficult to climb in and out of. There's a 270-liter boot, too.